Andy, I would love for you to just start out, tell people a little bit about your journey through HubSpot and the product org and what your role is now, and then we will just open it up to questions.
Yeah, sounds good. Kyle, I didn't know you were having another kid, so congratulations.
Thanks.
That was news. That was news to me as well. 5 kids sounds like a lot.
It
So
is.
good luck with that. But yeah, so hello everybody. I'm excited to be here. This is my first time, and my name's Andy. Andy Pitre, and I lead all of the product managers and UXers and designers at HubSpot. So I think that's probably in the description somewhere of the session, but that's what I do here at HubSpot. Nice to meet everybody. And I've been at HubSpot for 15 years, which is a very long time. I joined in December 2009. That was when I originally joined HubSpot, when we were about like 3 years old. And my first job at HubSpot was not on the product team. It was actually on our customer success team, which back in the day we called the services team. And I'm having to like relearn to call it the customer success team because that's what it's called now. HubSpot, I still call it the services team. And John Dick gets mad at me for that, so I'm trying to correct myself. But I joined the customer success team, and I did my first job was what today at HubSpot would be called an onboarding specialist. Who many of you have probably worked with when you first purchased HubSpot. Back in the day, we called it IMC, Inbound Marketing Consultant, because that was when HubSpot was just a marketing company. And actually, when I joined HubSpot, we were basically like an SEO and content creation company. We had coined the term inbound marketing, and that was what we sold. But that was before we did email, before we did marketing automation, way before we did CRM and anything else. So I basically taught people how to do search engine optimization. That was like my first job at HubSpot. And, I got into product management because, I talked to customers, 8 hours a day, helping them get HubSpot set up. And through that process of, working with customers every day on the product, I started to develop some opinions about what I thought the product should do. And, I got, insight into, where customers were struggling with the product. And I basically would go, in whatever free time I had during the day, I'd walk over to where the product team sat, which was like 3 rows of desks over from where I sat. And I would say, hey, here's all the problems that customers are having with HubSpot. Here's the features they'd like to see. Here's what I hear about on the phone with customers all day. And eventually the product team got sick of hearing from me. And got sick of my complaining every day and said, okay, we're gonna make Andy a product manager to shut him up, basically. And that was how I got into product management at HubSpot. That's obviously a slightly condensed version, but that's like more or less what happened. And then since I've worked on the product team, when I joined, I think there were like 4 or 5 product managers. I was one of like 4 or 5 product managers. Now we have like 250-ish, product managers and 250-ish designers. At the time, we had like 5 product managers and like 0 designers. So we've come like a long way. But I've worked on almost every part of HubSpot in one way, shape, or form since I joined the product team. The first product I worked on was our SEO product. That was the thing that I was like really passionate about. Then I took on SEO, social, analytics. I took on contact management back when we were only a marketing company. And then because I owned contact management and lists when we were only a marketing product, when we had this crazy idea that we should see if we could get into the CRM space, I ended up becoming the product manager who made the most sense to work on HubSpot CRM when we were first launching it. And so I started working on HubSpot CRM back in 2014. I think that was 2014. That's when we launched it. And we started, so we launched it in inbound 2014. We started working on it in February 2014. That was the turnaround for HubSpot CRM. And so that, that's definitely one of my favorite things that I've worked on since being on the product team. But I've also worked on, then I worked on CRM, Sales Hub, automation, reporting, helped launch Operations Hub, and sort of, I've seen HubSpot evolve from very, small, relatively small SEO app, into the customer platform that we are today, which has been really cool. And obviously grown a lot in my time at HubSpot. So I guess that's the short version of my history at HubSpot. yeah, and I'm excited to be here. And I love HubSpot admins, because obviously if I ever left HubSpot and went to another company, I would obviously bring HubSpot to that other company. And then if I was, working in another company with HubSpot, whatever my role was at the company, I would be the HubSpot admin, setting up HubSpot for the company that I worked at. And so I love talking to HubSpot admins because you all know the product so well, even deeper than me in like certain areas. And you guys are always coming up with like crazy new ways to use the product that we never thought about on the product team, which is mostly fun, sometimes sort of frustrating, but mostly really fun. And we get a ton of really great ideas from all of you that we incorporate into the product roadmap and what we build into the product. So very excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for that. And everyone, I thought it was important for Andy to share that because I think it's easy to assume that someone in the product at Andy's level, the guy who oversees the entire product organization, is like an executive who flies at 35,000 feet and sees the product from a distance. But Andy knows HubSpot and the way it's evolved better than most anyone else I can think of off the top of my head. So I think, Andy, all questions are fair game. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if
all questions are fair game.
No.
Kyle and Deanna and I were talking about this as some people were joining, but obviously I know the product pretty well, so all questions are fair game. I will do my best to answer every single question. But again, you guys are all HubSpot admins, so there might be some nooks and crannies of places in HubSpot that you actually know better than me. And so in any of those cases, if I can't give an answer, then we'll do our best to like write that down and get back to you after the session today. And then the other thing is I also reserve the right, I'm just going to say this out loud now. I also reserve the right to do what product managers do best, which is to turn your questions back on you and turn this into, me being able to get, product feedback from everybody here today. So be careful for that. That's, I call that that's like the product manager mind trick. That's like the PM mind trick, where somebody says like, hey, what do you think about this feature inside of HubSpot? And then I turn that around and I'm like, what do you think about this feature? So I reserve the right to do that today. You guys can look out for all the times that I do that.
So I will, like we usually do at the end of these sessions, from the very beginning, I'm going to manage this in the Q&A. I will work through questions, most upvoted to least upvoted. So if you want to jump in there now, everybody ask questions. We've already got 19, so I think there will be plenty coming in over the course of this hour. Upvote, ask. Another thing I want to mention, Andy tells me he's very much a cameras on kind of guy. He was in favor of all of you having your cameras on, but we didn't know how to make that happen, and we weren't sure Bevy could handle it. So if at any point you would like to dig in deeper with Andy, ask follow-up questions, share your use case, whatever it may be, go ahead and raise your hand, and that gives us the ability to bring you on. The raise your hand button is, I think, for me, it's tucked away under the more button. There we go. Aaron has lots of people are raising their hands. Okay, you figured it out. It works. Okay, I didn't expect that right out the gate. Let me just hop into the questions. I will do what I said, and because there are 172 people in the room, we're gonna do this in an orderly fashion. But Deanna, if you could keep an eye on the hands and bring people on as it seems reasonable. I trust you to do that. So Chris's question with 23 upvotes is the number one request I get from sales reps is access to their individual inbox in HubSpot. They want one tool to live in, and once they leave HubSpot to manage their email in Outlook, we lose them. So any thoughts on having personal inboxes in HubSpot?
That's a good one. This is something we've talked about throughout the years. And I think that the short answer is, I think that we want to bring more of sales reps inboxes into HubSpot over time. I do think that that's the direction that we want to go with Sales Hub. The couple things I think about when I think about that experience is like, one, it's like we don't want to just we don't necessarily want to just like recreate Outlook or Gmail inside of HubSpot, right? Because there already is an Outlook, there already is a Gmail, right? And then like you're going to end up in a world where you're going to have a bizarro version of that, you know what I mean? Like living inside of HubSpot. And the chances, you know, like when you think about Gmail or Outlook, they're spending all of their time, you know, building a really good inbox experience. You know, we wouldn't have the same number of people, you know what I mean, like building out that inbox experience inside of HubSpot. And so, you know, there's a question of like, if we're going to bring the inbox into HubSpot, what's the unique value that we're going to bring, you know what I mean, like into HubSpot, so that we're not just trying to recreate an experience that already exists for users inside of HubSpot. You know, we've obviously also taken the approach of bringing HubSpot into the inbox, right? Like through the HubSpot extension inside of Gmail, through the HubSpot extension inside of Outlook. And there's kind of like, the way I think about it personally is like, whether you're working in HubSpot or whether you're working in Outlook, I just want to meet users like where they are, right? Like one of my big things inside the product is like, I don't want to make people have to do extra work to do HubSpot, right? Like the whole idea of HubSpot is that HubSpot should help you do like less work than you would be doing otherwise. And that could be inside of the product experience, or that could be inside of Outlook or Gmail. So now, you know, if you think about bringing more of that inbox experience into HubSpot, and you think about where we're going with, you know, the prospecting agent and the sales workspace and AI guided actions, you know, inside of Sales Hub, I also wonder about a future world where I'm not even sure if users are going to use inboxes the same way that we use inboxes today. You know what I mean? Like in the future, if I look, you know, like several years out, you know, are people actually going to be going into their inboxes and like reading every single email and, you know what I mean? Like, and, you know, marking things as unread and doing all the things that we do today in order to manage our inboxes, like, you know, like task management, you know, systems, which is kind of how people think about their inboxes today. Or are we going to get to a world where, you know, whether it's the prospecting agent or the customer agent, or, you know, some sort of AI agent is actually reading your inbox for you, you know, pulling out the things that are interesting from your inbox, maybe even getting to the point where it can reply to a lot of things for you, either with like minimal, you know, with minimal supervision, or potentially even like no supervision some of the time, right? If some of the answers can just be like pretty straightforward, and then creating for you, you know, like the tasks and the follow-ups and the meeting preps and the information that you would need from your inbox. And so I think like the future that I want to live in on the product side is a world where sales reps are primarily using, you know, the sales workspace and guided actions inside the sales workspace. The sales workspace is reading their inbox. The sales workspace is highlighting and making decisions about what they should be following up on and what they should be doing, you know, based on the information that's being pulled out of the inbox. And so I don't know if that's like a one-to-one inbox experience inside of HubSpot, but I think that it achieves that same end that, now I forget the name of the person that asked the question, achieves that same, sorry, what was it? Chris, I think, you know, I think that gets to the same end, you know, that you're talking about, where sales reps are primarily working out of the sales workspace. The sales workspace has access to their inbox. They're able to see the information from their inbox in the sales workspace, but I don't know that it's a one-to-one, you know, like one-to-one experience from what they're currently getting from their inbox.
Great. I love the running commentary in the chat. If you can see it, Andy. Yeah. Some people are definitely aligned with that, and some people have. Scott works with crusty old bankers and is not convinced they will ever leave their inbox. So, Taylor's question: can we get super admins the ability to view and test functionality for any paid seat in the hub?
Oh, that's a good question. Question back. Do you mean like be able to basically like log in as that paid seat to be able to test the functionality, or get access? Like what can give me some follow up?
Taylor, if you want to raise your hand, we'd love to bring you up to talk about it more. Yeah. All right, here we go. Our first caller. Welcome to the show, Taylor.
All right.
Yep, we got you, Taylor.
Great. Yeah, so I was told actually to come specifically to this admin hug to speak to you about this off of a hug like a month and a half ago. So made sure to put it on the calendar. Yeah, the ability to essentially log in as a user would be fine, but you have to actually be able to build as that as well. I understand you might have to put super admin seats behind some type of cap, right? You can't maybe have one per hub or two, whatever it is that they pay for. But yes, being able to help a sales manager through making a sequence, right? Or helping a service rep with the chat flow, like something that they want help making a snippet. Just those types of things become tough if you don't have that seat assigned to yourself.
Yeah. And are you like in that world, Taylor, is
Mhm.
the implication of that like as a super admin, you have a core seat to HubSpot, and so therefore you don't have access to all of the paid tools that like the, sales or service seat would have?
Correct. So, like for example, my company, we pay for Sales Enterprise, Service Pro, Marketing Enterprise, and the CMS Enterprise. And we haven't actually been pushed to the new seats change, but I know it's coming, right? And I
Sure.
actually do have myself assigned as a Sales Enterprise seat. I really don't need to have one for what I do day in, day out, but I need to be able to help our sales team overcome hurdles.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think obviously the thing that we think about in for HubSpot is, and again, but I don't worry about this too much, but just to say it out loud, like the thing that we worry about is like we don't want to create a world where everybody's just like, great, I'm going to make everybody in HubSpot a super admin, and therefore
Correct.
everybody in HubSpot
That's what I was
can
saying.
have
You're gonna have to
access to
cap it, right?
all
And
the
if you
features.
want to
Yeah.
get an extra access, maybe people pay for an additional super admin license or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I understand that model for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
But obviously, but the reason I don't worry about it too much is because like we don't see a ton of that like inside of the HubSpot user base. Like we don't see a ton of people like over gaming HubSpot, which is great. So like that's not the only reason that we wouldn't do it. The harder thing to do is to really get the like user impersonation like really correct. And so that you can like log in as that user. And obviously we have that in like some places, but like what are the things that you can't do today that you would like to be able to
well,
do?
so I don't think we would need necessarily user impersonation. I think you could do it by saying any paid seat in that hub, right? So if you have a service seat that's a paid Service Pro seat, and you have a Sales Enterprise seat that's a paid seat, like I currently do, my super admin would be able to use all the functionality granted to those seats.
So if you're a super admin seat, like if it was like a sales seat or a service seat, or even if it was not,
Correct. If it
even
was
if it was,
not, if it
even
was
if it
not.
was
So
not. Okay.
basically, if you use any paywall functionality in your hub, your super admin should have access to that paywall functionality.
Yeah.
Taylor, if I can hop in here, let me know if this represents kind of what you're getting at. Something I've heard a lot, Andy, is with sequences specifically. A lot of admin types or even marketers would love to be able to build sequences.
Yes.
The salesperson needs the ability to enroll and personalize the sequence, but it's not usually the frontline sales rep who is like writing those templates and putting them into a particular order with the automation cadences set and stuff. And so a super admin or a marketer has to be assigned a sales seat to go in and create that
Yes.
stuff, even though they're never, ever going to be the ones to
Yeah.
send them.
Correct. And somebody put in the chat about like not being able to edit playbooks and things of that nature, right? It's just stuff that, maybe the sales people or manager do not need to be doing their day to day. But you have to assign yourself a seat to do it.
All right. Let me ask like another follow-up question here. Which is kind of like the obvious question, but I want to make sure I understand. I want to see if there's an answer. I kind of expect one answer, but I want to see if that's the only answer I get, which is like what prevents you from buying like an extra paid seat, like an extra like sales or service seat for the admin?
It's cost
Okay,
for a
that's
lot
what
of
I thought
times,
the
right?
answer was. That's what I thought
Especially
the answer was going to be.
especially
But
because, right, you technically right now there are workarounds where I can go and like flip a seat off and things like that.
mhm.
And also, while we're on the topic of paid seats and cost, we have a seasonal model. And so we actually staff up a seasonal service team that we need Service Pro functionality for. But as soon as we onboard them in March, we then pay for it for the rest of the subscription term, which for us is in December, but we offboard them in September. So, I don't know if there could be a monthly feature for paid seats, but right now we were taking up pretty good chunk of cost to cover seasonal employees.
Yeah, for season, so like more flexibility for like seasonal employees.
Yep.
Um, okay, I don't have like a perfect answer for you. I don't know if we're like working on anything in this to solve for this right now, but now I made a note to myself to follow up and have this discussion. Because again, because I obviously I want admins to be able, to log into HubSpot, be able to do things on behalf of users, be able to set up sequences and playbooks and all those other things. One thing that is, that we're thinking about, which kind of relates to this, and Kyle was joking about this question probably coming up at some point today, talking about like Breeze credits, right, and like overall like credit usage inside of HubSpot, is we're currently trying to figure out, how we, launch a credit model that goes, side by side with the seat model. And one option that we think about is whether or not certain things like for example, the prospecting agent would be like one of those examples where the prospecting agent is like primarily, monetized through credits, right? And so in that world, there's less of a seat, sort of like a seat-based pricing for the prospecting agent, and the prospecting agent is monetized more on like how many outreaches is it doing, or how many meetings is it booking, right? We're still kind of in the process of like figuring that out. The reason I like that model, for what it's worth, is because, again, we don't have to put a gate on who can set up the prospecting agent. In that world, we actually want, everybody setting up the prospecting agent and everybody making the prospecting agent work really well, because, in the credit model, the what gets monetized is like the value that the prospecting agent is delivering to the company in a very direct way. And so I think about that example. I know you didn't ask about the prospecting agent, you asked about sequences, but I'll say another thing here, which is like in the future, I imagine a world, a few years from now, where I don't know that anybody's using sequences anymore. I think that people are using the prospecting agent instead of sequences, right? Because the prospecting sequence is, just a time set of canned emails that you create. The prospecting agent is actually taking a lead, researching that lead, creating, a personalized set of emails, for that lead. And so I kind of imagine this world where sequences kind of becomes like a thing of the past. Like that's the old way that you used to like reach out to people. The prospecting agent that can do like live research and outreach becomes like the new way. And I think that as we move more and more to this, new model of AI doing work for you rather than you setting up things yourself, more and more of that will end up getting monetized through credits rather than through, just pure seats. And that will probably get you closer to a world that you're sort of describing now. And then the question I have left over from that is like, well, what are we doing in the short term? So it's obviously very easy for me to live in like the longer term, like world that we're trying to get to as a company. And so I'll bring that question back, Taylor, to the team and see if I can get you like a more specific answer, if there's anything that we're working on there for the super admins.
Great. Yeah, no, just access to paid functionality, any paid functionality, that would be amazing to
Yeah.
get. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Andy.
Okay. Love it.
All right. Thanks, Taylor. Okay. A sort of technical question from Josh. What was the reasoning behind the recent change to the merge behavior that results in a new record ID being created for the merged company rather than retaining the record ID of the primary record? Like many others, we rely on record ID as a stable, unique identifier since it's designated to be just that. And this shift has introduced challenges, particularly with how we track and reference customer records internally.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that specifically. I imagine, if I'm thinking about how, things are architected inside of HubSpot, I imagine that it was a technical decision that we made, and probably has to do with the way that we're archiving records in the background. I imagine is like the reason that we made that decision. But obviously, based on the question, that's like created a problem for. Sorry, what was the name of the person that asked that question? That would create a problem for Josh. Probably some other people in here as well.
It got 15 upvotes.
Yeah, it got 15 upvotes. And so let me look into the record ID problem. Again, I don't know the answer to this question, but one of the things that goes through my mind is like, if I use the original record ID, does it does it end up returning the new record ID for the merged companies? That's like one. I don't know.
I'll be honest. I was not aware of this change. Even I cannot stay on top
Josh
of it.
says yes.
It does. Okay.
Aaron says
If I hit the API with the old record ID, does it return, the JSON for the new record ID? Phil says there's a separate field that includes all prior record IDs that the API can reference. And then Chad says this was a major issue for syncing between systems. And Josh says, I don't know. All right, Josh, I don't have a perfect answer for you on this one. This is like pretty detailed, but this is another one where I can bring this back to the team and both get the answer to the question of like why we decided to do that. But again, I'm sure that the answer is going to be some version of like, that was, the technical decision that we made. But more importantly, I can bring back to the team the fact that this is like causing problems for customers who have built systems to look up record IDs that no longer produce the record IDs that they were assuming that they were going to get because of the record ID changes.
And friends, I'll tell you, I will be exporting out the chat and the Q&A to share with Andy and the team afterwards. So if those of you that this has been causing problems for want to just detail some of those problems in the chat so we can have them documented, where you're running into problems, what sort of problems you're having, that'll probably be helpful. Cool. Back to Q&A. Okay. Let's see. Tobias says, what has been your favorite and least favorite product update of the past 12 months? I don't know if you have least favorites. Do you have least favorites?
I was gonna say I don't know if I can answer the least favorite product update. I'll think about that one for a second. I think my favorite update for the last like 12 months, and I'm like cheating a little bit because it's more like a number of updates together, but I'm personally like really excited by the customer agent. That's one of the things that we're working on right now that we released at Inbound, and we've been making, steady improvements to it since Inbound and now, that I think is really game changing for HubSpot. So for anybody who hasn't used the customer agent yet, the first use case that we took on with the customer agent is a support use case. So basically the customer agent reads your knowledge base articles, and then you can also feed it, additional information through PDFs or by pointing it at URLs on the internet or by writing sort of short snippets, based on how you want the customer agent to be able to answer questions. And what we're currently seeing across the board is about like a 52% resolution rate on tickets that come in through the customer agent. So it's able to, solve about half of the support tickets that come in through the customer agent, which is pretty cool. And that number started at like 15%, and now we've gone up to like 52%. So we're continuing to like make it better over time. And then we have some customers that are getting even higher than 50% resolution rates if they have like really good documentation on all the questions that their customers answer. And I think that this is like a great example of a way that AI is really making it possible for like every company in the world to be able to have like, some version of like 24/7 support, which is like pretty cool. And then where we want to go with the customer agent, we also just launched the knowledge base agent. So now the customer agent, if it gets questions that it can't answer, will look at the responses that you're sending to those questions and then turn those into knowledge base articles. And then those two agents working together, basically, will improve the resolution rate of the customer agent and create knowledge base articles for you, which is like also pretty cool. And where we want to go with the customer agent is to also have the customer agent to be able to do sort of like inbound sales on your website. And it works through chat. It works through email now as of Spring Spotlight, like a month ago. And then we're also working on it, having it work through voice as well. So you'll also eventually be able to have someone call into your company and be able to speak to the customer agent and get answers to questions via the customer agent. And we want to expand it from just being customer support to, basically being like the whole customer lifecycle, so that, you can also train it on your products and services and sales methodology, and have it book meetings with sales reps for you, and have it be able to, even start to bring somebody through the beginning phases of a sales qualification process, right? Like, like for all the inbound leads that are coming to your website. And so I think of all the things that we're working on right now, that's probably the one I'm most excited about, because I think it really represents a real like different way of being able to think about like how you service your customers and how you provide a much better customer experience with a customer agent that can answer your half of your customers problems in real time. So that's the thing I'm probably most excited about. What am I least excited about? I mean, like that's a hard question. If there's anything I wasn't excited about, we probably wouldn't be working on it. So that's kind of a tough question to answer. I don't know. I mean, even if I go into like some of the like really small things that we've worked on over the past year, all of those have been solving like UI challenges for customers, or making things like slightly easier for customers. Even just like the straight up sort of back end sort of speed and reliability work that we're always working on. Even though that's something that I'm less involved in. It's kind of more the engineering team that's figuring out how to make HubSpot faster and more scalable. I'm still excited about those things because they still provide like a better customer experience for HubSpot customers. So I don't know if I can pick something I'm least excited about.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Customer agent, I think, is a really good example of why even us here, we HubSpot super fans need to pay close attention to what's happening, because when customer agent was announced at Inbound, I was like, wait, isn't that just our AI chatbot renamed? And now, like 6 months later, it is one of the most incredible products HubSpot offers. It happened very rapidly. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty inspirational, really.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron asks, conditional properties. Can they stay on the card when they are entered? Meaning you select yes from a dropdown, a conditional field pops open, you fill in the details, but it doesn't stay on the left side of the card. Seems clunky.
Oh, interesting. So the field that stays on the card is the field that like initiates the conditional value. So you would say like yes, and then you would get the additional fields. I'm making sure I understand this right. You would fill out those additional fields, but once you fill out those additional fields, you're just left with one property that says like yes. Is that the
I believe that's I believe that's what she's saying.
It's great.
She's raised her hand.
Okay, yeah. Aaron, let's go.
Aaron.
Is what I just described what the behavior that exists today?
Hi.
Hi,
yes,
Aaron.
That is 100. Hi, how are you? Yeah, that is 150% it. So we are working through a build right now, and it has a lot of conditional properties. And so I actually just put them on the actual card itself, but then I don't want the end user to get confused to say, oh, now I need to fill this out, even though they don't, because it's not dependent on that original property. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like I'll use like a silly example, but if like the conditional property was like, if you were selling to bakeries and you were like, what type of baked goods do you sell? Right. And then you select cakes, then it's like, what kind of cake, then it's like a bunch of questions about cakes. But if you say like cookies, then it's like a bunch of questions about cookies. Right. And if I select cakes and then say I sell chocolate cakes and vanilla cakes and strawberry cakes, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the options would be, but whatever that would be, you would want those to stay on the card. Versus today, it would just say, do you sell cakes? Yes. I would fill out those properties. So that's good because you're getting that data inside of HubSpot, but then you're not able to reference them again unless
you can't see them.
Unless you like permanently add them to the record. But then again, if it's like cakes and there's like 15 sub options, and cookies and there's like 15 sub options, you also don't want like 30 sub options. You just want the sub options that are relevant to the conditional property that you selected.
Yep, exactly.
All right. I will bring that back to the product team. I think that makes.
Just hearing you describe it that way, Eddie, it like makes my heart sing. I get very excited about this stuff. Aaron, if you want to hang around for a minute. The next question.
I was going to show you. So actually it was like this, right? And so like,
yeah, show me. Yeah.
If I select yes, it has these two properties here. I've added them onto the card, but if I did card and I filled these out, they wouldn't show that they were
Right.
filled in. They
Can you
don't
fill?
stay.
Wait, fill one in right now. What does it do?
Are
Well,
those
now it's
appearing
gonna.
twice now? Wow.
Well, yeah, because I had to add it to the card.
Right,
So that if I
right.
did select yes, we would see them, because if I select no, it doesn't require me to fill those two out. But now the user might sit there and go, well, do I have to enter these two or
Yeah, right,
no?
right.
Right. And so if I select yes, then like, let's just pretend these weren't here and I fill these in, they disappear. And then you
Yeah.
can't see that those were dependent fields that were submitted on the form.
All right, I'll bring that back to the CRM cards team, like the CRM like sidebar cards team. I think that's a great I agree with you. I think that's the way it kind of feels like it should work, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me work.
And Aaron,
We're doing a workaround. We're doing a playbook instead, which it works. But that way the dependent fields are there, and they, the panel opens when you're doing it in a playbook. So it makes it a little less confusing for the end user to do it that way.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Aaron, while we've got you here, you also have the next most upvoted question if you want to ask about multi-step forms.
Oh, yeah. So I love multi-step forms. It was long awaited. I love that HubSpot finally came out with multi-step forms, saved a lot of integrations with other form platforms and things like that. But like, I've run into a couple of issues with it, and I've been on support multiple times. I'm like, am I doing something wrong? I feel like this functionality should be there. So if you have a form and you have a dependent, they fill out a property based on like who they are or what their question is. Maybe you want that form to auto submit. Currently, you can't skip that step to go all the way to submit. It's I don't know if that makes sense. Let me see.
Can you walk me through an example?
I think I have one. Oh, yes, I do. So like we were creating our updated form for when a new customer comes in. So essentially, if they are requesting a new account, they then have to go through step 2, step 3, step 4, right?
Yeah.
If they select edit existing account, I couldn't have this skip to like, a step over here.
Okay,
and
so
not have them go through all of
they still go through all those steps with the form fields like pre-populated for them.
No. I might have to record a video and send it to you.
Okay, yeah.
But there's just limited functionality. So I just chose for edit existing account. Then they have to enter this information. But from here, I want the form to submit. And I can't have the form submit here. I have to then skip this step. I don't want them to fill this out, but this is the workaround that I had, was that they would come to this step because I don't see an issue with them redoing their terms of acceptance here.
Sure.
But I don't want them to. Essentially, I want them to fill this part out, and then I want this to just submit. And I can't do that the way it currently is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you could record a video, that would be awesome. And again, I can bring this back to the forms team.
Yeah.
It's possible the forms team is like already working on that. We just haven't gotten there yet, but I don't know that.
I
don't know that for sure. But this is great feedback. And obviously, for us, the less the faster somebody can get to submitting a form and not having to fill in information or like skip through different steps, like it's going to lead to a higher conversion rate, which is what we want. So I think that's a solid feature request for sure.
My guess is that they're working on it, because anytime I'm like, please fix this, they usually do, but it takes a little bit of time. But I'll send you a video and so that they have the information.
Yeah, that's perfect. That'd be awesome. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, you bet.
Cool. Jerry asks, when will goals be included in the custom report builder rather than only being available as a single object to report on?
Ooh. I don't know the exact answer to when. I can go and try to get that answer from the reporting team. But I want to use this was Jerry that asked the question. Is Jerry willing? Jerry, you willing to come on here? going to use my PM mind trick. I want to ask Jerry, how do you, and it could also be somebody else if they have the same question. I imagine people have the same question. I want to know, like, my question back is like, how do you want it to work? Because I can bring that to the reporting team and have them work on that.
No takers. Maybe put some notes in the chat. We'll move on to another question.
Kyle, while you're on the Q&A, can you resort most upvoted? There's a couple that skip back up.
Oh, okay.
And Taylor Reed says, look at my question about goals, Kyle. So apparently there's another goals question in there.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, we'll just bring Taylor on.
Bring Taylor on.
Well,
Taylor, how do you want goals to work in reporting?
So my use case is a little bit more specific maybe than the original question, but we've had HubSpot since 2017. And back then, our executive team really bought into HubSpot because they were able to see a snapshot of the business and how it was performing, because we were able to essentially put our whole budget against it, right? Now, with that only being applied to the sales seat, you can do a really, really crazy workaround, right? Where I say, okay, anything that comes in through our inbound line that our CSRs handle, mark that myself as a deal owner, I'll apply all of that goal budget to me, and then we can see it, against the line is tracking against. That sounds ridiculous. So we don't do that because it's false, right? I want to be able to see who actually booked it and not wrongly mark the deal owner. So just having a way to use goals outside of needing a sales seat or to have the company budget applied there, because it's really hard to see that tracking line to see how things are trending and make it usable for an executive team with the way it has now changed.
And so how are you in this world? You mentioned like the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Are you using goals to track the budget, or are you just using goals to track the revenue target, and then
the revenue target? So
Okay.
Let's say, we had 100,000 for this week. Well, great. My sales team booked 30,000 of that, but 70,000 came in inbound through CSRs. That 70,000 does not apply against the goal tracking because they don't use a sales seat.
I see.
Because they don't need sales functionality or anything that may have came in online or anything like that.
Yeah. So your question here is like, how do you get the goals to work for those non-sales seats? Because goals is like behind a sales seat right now, to be able to take credit for that, that revenue that's being generated by the non-sales people.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it kind of expands on, being able to use that goals feature, right, for other reporting. To me, it's not going to be useful if I can't actually use it for a true goal number.
Yeah. Taylor, can I ask you another follow-up question on this?
Mm-hmm.
How many users do you have inside of HubSpot? Let me start. How big is your company?
Our company is in season about 50 people.
50 people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you say in season, that
golf season,
that includes the seasonal workers that you were mentioning before?
Yep.
Okay. So it's 50 people, and then it ebbs and flows a little bit, like with the season. And
Correct.
then how many of those 50 people are in HubSpot?
In HubSpot daily, like I said, we haven't moved to the seats model, so we haven't done a full cleanup yet, but we have 10 sales enterprise seats, and I believe we're up to 7 now service pro seats. And then we have, our marketers in their daily as well.
And how many people is that?
3.
3-ish marketers. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like 40% of your company inside of HubSpot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got 10 with sales seats, 7 with service seats, 3 marketers with what would eventually become a core seat.
Correct.
And then do you have anybody and then if you is there anybody else that logs into HubSpot with a free seat?
Oh yeah. We have tons of those, right? Like our accounting team will hop in there. We have a physical production site, so if they want to see notes or emails that have gone on because they have a question about a logo or something like that, they will hop in there as well. But yeah, no, as it relates to goals, it's really just not being able to have a revenue line outside of a sales seat, because we have an online buying experience as well, and a salesperson did nothing there.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I don't have the perfect answer for you, Taylor, but I like this feedback a lot in how you're thinking about again, the thing I love a lot, Taylor, is how you're running like so much of your business out of HubSpot. And then
Oh my
we're
gosh, I'm your guys' biggest fan.
yeah, totally. And then we're kind of creating these like artificial barriers for you based on the way that we've sort of like priced and packaged certain features. And so again, I don't have like a magic answer for you to fix all of this, but like but I can say that I want to fix all of this because I want you running your whole business out of HubSpot. That's like what I dream for.
Yeah.
And I don't want and I don't want there to be those like artificial barriers there for you.
Well, so Andy, if I can like further emphasize why, or put more emphasis on why this is important to us, is obviously to get budget, right, to buy these seats and do everything. Like I said, the executive team likes to be able to use it for themselves selfishly.
Yeah.
And using those dashboards and those overviews is how they were doing that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, I hot desk in our sales floor a couple days a week. I'm right here right now, so my camera's not on. But we have 2 TVs on our wall with HubSpot dashboards on them.
Yeah, I love
Like that are running at all times. That our sales team can see stuff that comes in on inbound forms to call out on. We have a dashboard showing their performance metrics for the day. So right, losing that revenue snapshot was tough.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I don't have a magic answer for you,
I
but
know.
this is really good feedback, Taylor.
Okay, awesome. Sorry to steal the most upvotes order, Kyle.
No, it's all right. Okay, this next question, I don't know if this is karmic justice or what, but we had John here a couple months ago, and he kept getting product questions. Andy, you now get a support question.
Ooh, good. Okay.
Melissa, with 26 upvotes, will live human customer support eventually go away in favor of Breeze/AI support? It's currently frustrating trying to use it when I encounter an issue. The fast, reliable human support is always what I brag to others who are considering HubSpot.
I think that's a great question. And I imagine, sorry, who what was the name of the person that asked that question?
Melissa.
And so Melissa, I imagine you're talking about like HubSpot's own support, basically. And the observation that, like I talked about, yeah, Melissa, come on. So Melissa, I imagine you're talking about HubSpot's own support. I just talked about how excited I am about the customer agent.
Yes.
obviously more of our support tickets are being handled by AI as well.
Right.
And your concern is
whenever I try to use it, I struggle for it to understand exactly the dilemma I'm facing.
Yeah.
So I get nervous that, because it's become harder and harder to get to a human because in favor of AI trying to handle tickets, which I understand is a balance you guys have to strike. But
yeah, I think
there's some things that you need a human to explain, like, here's my dilemma, here's what I've done so far. All of the things that the AI thing is suggesting are not working. And then they're like, oh, there's this one little token comma that you added, or, whatever. And then it's fixed.
How do you get to a human today when you want to get to a human? How do you hijack the support to get to a human?
Gosh, without opening it, I'm not sure, but it's kind of like it seems like the contact support or chat with someone continues to be a little harder to find,
Yeah.
Further down in the box that opens up when you're getting support.
I think to answer your question, and again, this is kind of obviously this isn't going to get into like all the specifics, but the couple things I'll say is like, one, I don't think we're ever going to get rid of human support
Awesome.
as a thing. That's not like our plan as a company.
Okay.
I also don't think that HubSpot customers will ever completely get rid of human support either. I think that there's going to be a place for human support. And I think over time, what you're going to see is that human support is actually going to have like more time to handle, more complex questions from customers.
Okay.
And that's what we're like kind of aiming towards in terms of what we're doing.
Okay.
At the same time, the other thing that I think is going to happen is I think that AI support is going to get a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that what you'll find over time is that where AI gets, sort of tripped up right now at being able to answer your questions and you like want to get to that human person. Again, there's going to be times where you're still going to get to a human person,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that you're also going to find that like AI actually is able to reliably answer a lot of your questions, better and better over time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think this will be true for HubSpot as a company. I think this will be true for HubSpot customers, and I think this will be true, just across the board with the way that support's going to work in the future. And the thing I think about, Melissa, as like an analogy to this is like I think about you know, whenever it was like 10-ish years ago when like online ordering and like mobile app ordering first came out. I personally didn't trust online ordering and like app ordering. And I would want to call the restaurant. I would want to talk to somebody at the restaurant and like make my takeout order and then, you know, like go and pick it up because I was afraid that the online ordering, you know, system was gonna mess up my order. And what's funny is now I've actually done like a full 180 on that, where I actually trust the online ordering system to get my order more than I trust calling a human in the restaurant in like most cases. Because like, you know, when you call the restaurant, you get like the 17-year-old who's taking your order, you know, and there's like so much noise in the background that you're not even sure if they can like hear you or not because they're, you know, and they're distracted by like the customers at the counter and like all that kind of stuff. And now I actually have a lot of faith that like when I make my order on Toast, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to literally just be the order, like the very specific order that I made. And I think the same thing is going to happen with AI over time, where there's actually going to be times where I think that people are actually going to prefer AI in some situations because they're going to realize that like, you know, the AI is giving a very exact answer from very exact, you know, documentation versus like a support rep who might not actually be well-versed in, you know, like, you know, the inner workings of API limits or, you know what I mean? Like something like that versus where that can be like a very knowable question that AI can answer. And so I think what you're experiencing today is obviously we're sort of in the messy middle right now, right? Where AI can't actually answer all the questions perfectly. You still want that human support. But anyways, bottom line is I don't think that HubSpot will ever get rid of human support. But I do think that over time, you're also going to notice that AI is going to get better and better at answering your questions.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Melissa.
Okay, Andy, I'm thinking we probably have time for one more question. We have maybe 100 questions left to get through. So how about I'll give you a choose your own adventure. I'll give you the 3 next most upvoted questions and you can choose which topic you want to address. Would you rather talk about HubSpot's Outlook extension, record deduplication, or the projects tool?
I want to talk about the projects tool.
All right. Jeremy asks, what is the state of the projects functionality? Asking for a ton of friends and a few arch enemies.
I want to use my PM mind trick here. And it could be whoever asked that question. What was their name?
Jeremy.
It could be Jeremy. It could be somebody else. What do you want to see from the projects tool?
Oh, Jeremy's on top of it.
Jeremy, tell me more. What do you wish you could do with projects inside of HubSpot?
Well, I want to take our 25 or so customer service and project managers and bring them into HubSpot, and I can't do it without it.
What's like the killer? There's probably a lot that you want. Like,
yeah, there's a lot.
One, are you using a project management tool today?
Yeah, it's garbage.
What is it? What is it?
I hate it with a passion. It's called an Autotask. There is a HubSpot integration, but it's not good. But no, seriously. So we've got a hybrid customer service and projects team. So we've got project managers mixed in.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of companies are like that.
And so essentially, I would love to bring them over and get Service Hub. But the issues that we're running into is there's not really very good project tracking beyond just the basic inputs. So a true like project timeline doesn't exist with different layers. With adjustability, any type of it's just not there. And then time tracking is a big gap. Time tracking is major, and that could also be used for some of our sales work as well.
And in your case, Jeremy, you're mostly talking about projects that you're working on behalf of customers, basically projects that you're like delivering to customers and the tracking of the projects that you're delivering to customers.
I'm going to be belligerent and say yes and no.
Yeah,
we are talking about larger projects.
And internal and purely internal projects too.
And really just customer support. I mean, in some cases that itself becomes a project. So if it moves from just a basic task response to a larger project, again, there's no insight. So right now I've got a few of the folks on view only seats for HubSpot, but from a marketing standpoint, we're missing the opportunity of having those guys more integrated into our system. And certainly from a service standpoint, I know that HubSpot can knock it out of the park if more attention is paid to it.
Yeah.
Versus this definitely lesser quality thing that we're using now.
Okay, this is
oh, by the way, we want to destroy ClickUp. Our development team uses ClickUp. I'd like to bring them over too. I would like 100% of our 80-person company to use HubSpot. Right now, it's just me and the sales team.
I mean, I love that. So some inside.
Sorry, I get aggressive.
Some inside information for this group. We are currently having a discussion at HubSpot about whether or not we want to do project management stuff inside of HubSpot.
Nice.
And, obviously the reason that we haven't gone deep into project management right now is like between everything that HubSpot already does for marketers and salespeople and service people and RevOps people and, everybody else in between, there's a ton of surface area for us to work on today. And so we've kind of made the decision up until now that, project management, let's put that off to the side. But we're currently like having kind of an internal discussion about whether or not that should be one of the next things that we take on. So this is great. This is great feedback. This is great feedback, Jeremy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right. Well, that's all we have time for. Everyone, I apologize. We did not have a full day booked to get through all the questions. I will be exporting these out, sharing these with Andy and the team. Andy, thanks so much for being here. Any last thoughts you want to share before we shut it down?
I didn't prepare any closing remarks, but this was awesome. Again, I wish I could have gotten to like every single question. I'm happy to come back and do these sessions again, Kyle. I'm sure, but maybe I'll regret saying that later. But as of right now, this has been great, and I'd be excited to come back and do it again. And I appreciate everybody's like questions and like feature requests and providing information about how you're using HubSpot and what you want to see from HubSpot. This is like incredibly valuable to me and to our product organization in general, to hear this type of feedback from people who are, in HubSpot, using HubSpot every day. And especially from the admins who are not only using it yourselves, but you're also thinking about how you're going to create a really good experience for all of the employees in your company that are using HubSpot. So this has been hugely valuable.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. I would love to have you back sometime. So we can work on that. But everyone else, thanks for joining. Thanks for your conversation questions, and hope to see you all back next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Bye, everybody.